Get that recording started. All right, we're all set. So what exactly is your current position as, I assume, coach with the girls swim dive team?
Just assistant swim coach.
All right.
Nothing more, nothing less.
And would you say that you do more like logistical stuff, or you're like working doing technique? What
Yeah,
more would you say you do?
I do a lot. I'm the lead coach for our IM mid distance and distance group. I'm responsible for all their training. I manage all of our video analysis, video recording, technical development for the whole team. That doesn't mean that our head coach doesn't do that as well, but I'm the lead on that. I'm the lead person for all of our camps and clinics. I'm the lead person for all alumni relations. Um, I don't really manage, but I guess I coordinate our social media and marketing and branding strategy with the external relations group.
Okay.
I, um, I coordinate all recruiting and lead all recruiting efforts, from evaluation to when they sign on the dotted line.
Right.
Um, yeah, I could keep going, but that's probably the main stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of everything there.
Yep.
How long have you been a coach for?
I've been a coach for about 12 years now. I've been here for just about 4 years at
Okay.
the U of I.
And for the other 8 years that you were coaching, were you doing like high school type stuff, or where were you coaching at before?
So before I was at U of I was with a club team called Nitro, out of Austin, Texas. Um, Nitro is they had about 1,200 swimmers on the team. For perspective, the YMCA Heat team has like 250. So it was a very large team, multiple sites. Um, by the time I left there, I was the national head coach. So I oversaw the senior swimmers, so about 250 senior level swimmers, and spearheaded our national team effort. So the national team for Nitro, and we did have national swimmers on that team. And then before I was with Nitro, I was at Eastern Illinois for a little over 4 years. I was the grad assistant for a year, and then I was the head coach for 3 years. And that was men's and women's swimming.
Okay. For Nitro, was that like a high school age range, or what was the age range for that?
The whole team was 6 years to 18. Actually, we had professionals, so we had 25-year-olds on the team. But the my primary responsibilities was overseeing essentially 15 and overs.
Okay. So, take your day-to-day life at U of I. What does that kind of look like?
Sure.
Either as like a weekly breakdown, or
Yeah.
if you just want to say what you do throughout the entire day.
Yeah, I mean, so average day, I'm awake between 4:30 and 5 a.m. We're at practice from 5:30 until 8:30 or 9 o'clock every day. Um, I take a couple of mornings off just to kind of be with my kids. But for the most part, yeah, we're at morning practice till 8:30 and 9, and that includes going over to the gym and doing weightlifting session following a morning session of swimming. Usually from 9 a.m. until 11, I'm doing office work, responding to emails, catching up on stuff. Usually, if I don't have morning practice, like that's my morning off, I'll still get up early and I'll respond to those emails um, before my kids get up, and then that way I can spend some more time with my kids that morning. Usually I try to take a little break between 11 and noon just to eat lunch and just have some downtime, and then usually between 12 and 2 I'm either preparing for that afternoon's practice or setting up notes for the morning practice, so I don't have to worry about that when I get up the next day. Um, sporadically between those times, the 9 to 11 and the 12 to 2 range, I'm also doing recruiting calls or um, reaching out to club coaches and checking in on recruits. Um, then we have afternoon practice Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from about 2:30 to 5. And so I'm on the deck on those days. And then usually I take work off from 5 until 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, to be home with family and be around. And then usually I'll schedule like 3 or 4 recruiting calls throughout the evenings during the week. So, I might have recruiting calls at 8 and 8:30, a couple times a week. Um, it's definitely heavier. That schedule is very indicative of essentially September through um, March. There is a little bit of a downtime in March, like right now. So I'm going to go on a vacation and take some time off, and our girls take some breaks. And so, as a coaching staff, we take some workouts off and spend some more time at home. And then usually April, May, June, it picks back up and is a very similar schedule. We might not have quite as many workouts during the week because we won't have as many girls on campus in the summer. So it'll be a little bit less time on deck. But usually, yeah, there's a lot of other stuff. So, and then I also, I also have a second job with the YMCA Heat team. So I work on the weekends coaching them, and then during the summer, I also work for the Champaign Country Club and coach them as well.
All right.
Yeah,
Uh, you
it's a
already,
lot.
yeah, you already answered the how does day-to-day life change when you're in the off season versus
Yeah,
regular season. Um, would you say you guys just did the whole tournament, kind of wrapping up the regular season and
yeah,
postseason, right? So
yeah.
would you say the tournament season is more hectic, or do you spend less time in practice and you're working more on taper? How would you say that changes versus just the regular season?
Um, it's the same amount of work. It's the same. It's usually just all chaos all the time for the most part. That I would say in terms of meat preparation, it can feel more chaotic because we're doing a lot more travel and logistical plans during our office hours. So rather than going over practice performance and just having a very simple task to kind of go over during that time frame, you're trying to do that and make sure that all the smoothies are ordered and all the travel's taken care of. And so um yeah, it probably feels like it's a little more chaotic during the taper and competition phase, but it's just different work.
All right, yeah. Um, I'm guessing that you already have experience swimming, that you did it either throughout high school or maybe professionally. Can you go and touch on that?
Yeah, I swam collegiately at Eastern Illinois University. I was a high school swimmer here at Champaign Central. Um, so yeah, I mean, those experiences were really good because I had really good mentors and good programs to be a part of.
Do you believe I don't know if it's a rumor or something, but everyone that I've talked to who does like Central Illinois swim says that we just have like randomly really good swimmers despite, you know, being in the middle of nowhere and kind of the country kids.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look at the elite level swimmers that have come out of Central Illinois and especially the Champaign Urbana community, the when you look at it per capita, I would say it's probably a pretty good success rate when you have multiple Olympians. You have a current national team member for um, Emma Rajic with who's at Cal now, right? So, yeah, I mean, per capita, it's a pretty impressive success rate.
All right. So you already answered. You do go in through recruiting and finding new people for the team,
Yep.
and you know doing those recruiting calls, how would you say like your top 2 or 3 sources are finding people that you want to recruit and get on the team?
Um, I kind of take a wide net approach. We'll reach out to 400 to 500 swimmers to start off the recruiting cycle, which starts this June after their sophomore year. Um, Within a month of that cycle, we're probably down to like 175 to 100 potential student athletes, and by the end of the summer, we probably got things down to like 40 or 50. From there, it's just managing those 40 to 50 student athlete or potential student athletes, and you know, you never know who's going to go really fast later that year, so you try to manage if they're a little bit on the slower end, keeping them on the line and keeping them engaged in the recruiting process, while also you might have a couple really high end kids that you want to really go hard after for as long as you need to get them in. So, yeah, we definitely just take a wide net, and just naturally it just slowly gets a little smaller.
Mhm. Um, so you said you do more technique and video work with practice. Um, how active are you when you like? Are you talking to another assistant coach to be like give directions to this swimmer about her kick or whatever? How active are you in taking the film and applying it to the swimmer in practice?
Yeah, I mean, very active. I'm the only assistant coach, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm the guy that films it, reviews it, shows it, corrects it. Um, I would say at the collegiate level, we try to balance out that technical development with also, I mean, you have to train. You can't be all technique all the time. And so, we try to, if we're going to do video or we're going to do technique, we want it to be a very specific practice. And then I would say once we're in a training phase, the technique is more reminders or a quick show of video, like 30 seconds, and then it's on the athlete to kind of make that change, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's more periodized, right? Like you're gonna have your technique phases, but then when it's time to train, we try not to get into the minutia of technique during that time.
Yeah. Um, a little bit of a logistic thing with that. Do you guys use like tablets or phones for that, or in the pool, do you have like a some sort of water safe screen that you can
Mhm.
like either project onto, or I don't know how you would go about best teaching people using film.
We have underwater cameras. We use a GoPro. Um, we use our phones. We use iPads. The U of I actually has invested in um, a more formalized video system for some of the programs, including ours. So that'll have above and below water filming, and it'll have like an app that we can kind of upload all filming to. So I mean, yeah, right now we utilize everything.
Okay. Do you guys do like any sort of heart rate telemetry, like having them wear like a whoop or some sort of device for that?
No, we tried Whoop, but we haven't. We just did a month trial with them. We really, I mean, we just do very old fashioned, just heart rate checks with the finger, and I mean,
Okay.
kind of go. That's about it right now. Yep, a little more old school.
Let's see. So that's getting into the analytics part. Um, so when you guys do your heart rate checks, doing the check pulse on the neck, do you do that after like certain sets, or when would you say that you guys work with your heart rate and a scale of how much energy or intense the set was?
Um, we'll do it. To me, there's two ways that we use it. The first is that we're gonna regularly check throughout the set, um, especially if we're in a period of recovery. So I want to make sure that the athlete throughout the set isn't going above their threshold, right? Or is maintaining their heart rate regularly throughout the set. Um, when we're in a more training phase, and if we're doing a really hard set, I really don't care how high their heart rate gets. I mean, it is what it is. And so if we're doing a set during a training phase, I might ask them to check their heart rate after the set, just to see where they were at when it completed, and I'll have their times, and I'll know what their times are and stuff. I would say probably every 2 weeks we'll do a time and heart rate test set to make sure that um, as they're training, um, we're not overdoing it, and you kind of can get that information you need by checking it every 2 weeks. Um, there's going to be ebbs and flows throughout the week, so I think when you do more than that, sometimes it can just be overkill. But when we do recover, we are tapering. I'm very aware of it, because um, when you start to reach that threshold, and you go past the threshold, then you're not able to recover anymore, because now you're training, you're not recovering.
Hmm. So how much would you say that you coach, not just on doing training and practice analytics and the sort, but also doing like lifestyle and kind of doing life coaching, going along, doing homework and, life experiences is going up and becoming more of an adult and living by
Yeah.
yourself?
I mean, probably 95% of coaching at the collegiate level is that. Probably at the high school level too, really. Uh, I mean, I would say 5% of my conversations with my athletes are specifically about swimming. Um, usually, whether you have a very type A personality person, right, that's in a very high academic major at the U of I, and they're trying to balance out that and swimming. Very rarely are you really talking about swimming. You're helping them try to manage their life and manage academics, and um, the better you get at coaching the non-swimming stuff, usually the less coaching you have to do when they actually swim. you know the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably true for all sports. The
Yeah.
majority of your coaching at this level has very little to do with the actual pool stuff, and everything else is out there.
And then going into the coaching, this might change from you versus the other coach. What would you say either you or the program has at U of I, the type of coaching philosophy, like a athlete centered where you're giving them their own goals and then you're just trying to help them meet those goals, or trying to make the team happy, and then as the athletes are working and supported, they achieve their own goals and the coaching is mostly hands off? Or are you feeling more it's my way or the highway and you're doing very structured and make your own goals for each athlete and then they have to meet those goals?
I would say all three. um I would definitely say more towards the democratic and holistic. Um, but when you're working with 18 to 22-year olds and they think they know everything and they think they know what's best for them, sometimes they don't actually know that stuff. And so you have to be willing as a coach to know when to put your foot down, and when to essentially take full control of the team, and do what you have to do to make sure they're improving or make sure the program's going the right direction, right? So um, I would say for the most part, we definitely have a very democratic and holistic kind of environment. But 20% of the time, we're as a staff, we probably put our foot down and say, this is what we're doing today, and this is how we're doing it. And if you don't like that, you can go swim somewhere else. That's okay. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to not like what we're doing, but this is what we have to do.
And when you're going through, obviously everyone's busy. What types of communication are you doing to keep in touch with your swimmers when they're not, in the facility alongside with you?
Use a lot of group me for the team, in terms of messaging with the team. A lot of texts. Don't do a lot of phone calls. Professionally, if there's a topic that I don't feel comfortable discussing with an athlete, I might do face to face, but for the most part, I mean that doesn't really ever happen, right? So, um, I try to do a lot of texting, a lot of group me, a lot of email, just so that there's always a record of the conversation. And then we do a lot of if we do in person or Zoom stuff, we try to always have both staff members present so that we can ensure that any kind of conversation with the student athlete is supported and documented.
Hmm. So going into more of the average practice day for when you're training in the pool, whether it be technique or just like raw speed, what does that look like for you guys in a pool practice?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily an average practice, right? But um, uh, for our just in general, we're gonna do um, a 20-minute kind of just general warm up. Um, the girls are gonna kind of just keep themselves moving for about 20 minutes, mixing in drills, mixing in just getting a feel for the water, maybe some aerobic kind of work. Um, then we'll probably do another 20-minute set um, that is going to stimulate the nervous system a little bit. That we want, if we want them to sprint that day, it's going to stimulate the nervous system so it's ready to go fast. If we're going to do a distance set, we might might not necessarily just focus on the nervous system, but we're going to really try to activate their metabolic and respiratory systems and get them moving and get their heart rate up and steady for 20 minutes. From there, usually, uh, if it's a quality sprint focus set or a VO2 max set, we'll go right into that main set. So that's maybe 25 to 35 minutes of training load there. Um, if we're going to do a distance set that day, that's usually a 45-minute to an hour long just um, aerobic development set. And then from there, we're either warming down or if it is a quality day, we might go from uh, race pace or VO2 max or a lactate set. We'll do some recovery, and then we might get into a lactate production set, or we might get into if we're going from VO2 max, we might go into a little bit of lactate work just to kind of hit that secondary system. So I tend to look at the energy system that we're practicing for that day. So each day we're going to focus on a different energy system, and I want as much of that workout to be fully focused on that energy system. Um, so in terms of the average practice, it has that structure, right? It's very, very simple. About 40 minutes of preparing for the main practice or the main set, and then the main set is going to obviously vary from day to day depending on what our needs are. But I look at times. I don't necessarily look at yardages. I'm more aware of how long the set is, um, so that we're not reaching any thresholds necessarily that we want to cross. So really for an aerobic set, you don't want to do more than an hour. 45 minutes is usually good. If we're doing a VO2 max set, we don't want to train for more than 45 minutes of that, because anything after that, you're just double dipping. They're just getting tired at that point. Lactate production set or lactate tolerance set, we're probably not going longer than 35 minutes of it before we maybe do a long period of recovery and then get into a slightly different energy system or a sister um, a sister energy system.
Mm-hmm. And then, so after you do like your pool practices, you're going to do some sort of, I assume, dry land. What does that look like for you guys? And would you double up doing like a dry land practice before you go in the pool or afterwards? How does that work out for you guys?
Yeah, we do most of our dry practices, our dry land stuff before we swim. Um, so we kind of have two different categories of dry land. One is going to be more conditioning focused, is going to be more uh, I guess I would say event or stroke specific work as well in there. And those are usually run by us coaches. And so, uh, that's going to be about 45 minutes. Usually it'll be about 15 minutes of warming up. We do a lot of um, range of motion movement. We do a lot of, we'll do walking with mini bands. Um, we'll do a lot of plank series and variations on um, plank movements. We'll do some core, and then we'll get into our main work. When we're doing conditioning, there's a lot of jump rope. There's a lot of uh, I would say leg work. So we're going to do a lot of something where, maybe it's 10 squats, 10 lunges, 4 jump squats, and we might add in a full body, like 2 burpees, right? And so we'll do anywhere from, you'll do something like an EMOM, right? Each minute on the minute kind of thing, right? And then usually after we do about 15 to 20 minutes of that conditioning, we'll do a lot of shoulder mobility. We'll do a lot of corrective movements. We'll do some swimming specific movements so that as they're fatigued, we're reinforcing kind of the pathways we want to make sure that they can handle for the pool. When we're not doing a conditioning focused, that during the probably middle the end of the phase of the season, after that warm up, we're doing a lot of very specific movements. So we'll get out cords and do cord pulls. We'll do a lot of med ball slams. We'll do a lot of med ball slam variations. Usually we'll do some jump rope just to maintain some conditioning levels, but for the most part it's swimming specific. Our strength coaches then run our strength program the other 3 days a week. And so those strength practices, usually about a 10-minute warm up. They'll then go into an A block, which is going to have a lot of the Olympic movements or squatting or deadlifting, cleans, anything that we need to progress through with those into. Usually after they're doing that, it's or they're supersetting with like vertical jump testing or broad jump testing, and then usually there's a corrective movement. So there's 3 things in that A block. There's the Olympic movement, there's the vertical jump testing or power testing, and then there's usually a corrective movement. Usually the B and C blocks that the girls will go through are going to have 3 to 5 movements or lifts. Those are going to have a kind of series between just supplemental lifting or relative strength gains, right? Or they might be very swimming specific, right? So we're going to do some cross sectional movements, maybe lunges, with a kettlebell, or split squats with the kettlebell, and you're gonna have the kettlebell raised above your head, right? A lot of TRX bands, um, a lot of kind of plank work and whatnot, and then usually the D block is going to be pull-ups, maybe some upper body stuff, or swimming specific kind of things. So usually they're weightlifting for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
I probably just rambled through a bunch of information. Probably good that you recorded that.
Yeah. Make sure that I get this all written down. You go back through what you said for the D block. The pull-ups and other.
Yeah, D block is usually just pull-ups. Usually the pull-ups will do like a corrective movement with them as well, just to avoid too much just pure overhead stuff, right? So, but yeah, it's usually just pull-ups, chin-ups.
Okay. Well, that covers the strength and conditioning practices.
Yep.
As far as the actual team, do you guys, I guess for the athletes, get the similar benefits that like a merch package and like daily to go meals for the athletes, maybe like free soft tissue recovery tools or like a place to go where they can have massages or some sort of recovery?
Yes, they receive similar benefits. Um, but yeah, it's similar. All those things. Is it the same? No. Um, but we have enough access to what we need. That's what I'll say.
Okay. To become a coach, whether it be for Nitro or for U of I, what sort of certificates did you have to have or experience were they either the administration looking for or that you found that was really helpful?
Sure. I mean, base level USA swimming certificates, right? So just becoming a qualified coach with USA swimming is first and foremost. Um, I did ASCA, which is the American Swim Coaches Association. Um, they have a rating system for members. Um, so I think I'm at level 5 right now, which is the highest level that you can get to. I don't know if that necessarily ever really factored in terms of any kind of like job or interview process. Um, but I think a lot of my education was actually in education. So I had teaching certification, and then I had a master's in sport administration. So, again, I don't know how much that really factored into everything. I think at the end of the day, it's about networking, being at the right moment at the right time. Uh, so I'd like to think all the things that I did for those certifications and all that kind of stuff helped out, but uh, I also know a lot of coaches that have none of that and they have really good gigs. So I don't know. I don't know how much it helped.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
What would you say the benefits are of being coach at a Big Ten school is compared to uh, like when you were working at EIU or for
Sure.
Nitro? And what does that look like um, getting paid or salary wise uh, being at the U of I compared to working at a club team?
Yeah, so actually when I was at Nitro, I earned a lot more money than I did here at the U of I. Um, the program here at U of I is certainly supported and stuff, but it is towards the very bottom of the Big Ten in terms of pay structure, support. Um, Certainly being at U of I is better than Eastern Illinois by a lot. But so U of I is in the middle. In terms of general benefits, most swimming programs nowadays, like clubs at Nitro, I had a retirement package, a bonus structure, I had healthcare, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't much different than the U of I or EIU. So in terms of like just benefits, I would say most club teams, most mid-level programs have uh, very robust support packages for coaches. I think probably being at a Big Ten school, maybe you have a little more access to gear, or maybe your facilities are a little bit nicer, but that's not really a benefit. So, but in terms of the pay and the support for coaches, it's you can have a family. It's
Yeah.
not it's not the basketball and football teams.
And let's see, we kind of talked about this. How often do you find that you're away from home during the season, whether you're working extra hours or actually physically gone on the road traveling
Sure.
or just otherwise?
Sure. Actually, this was something that I looked up during quarantine because I was home so much. Right? I was like, how much was I gone? So I actually traveled or was physically just not home, whether it was recruiting, having recruiting weekends or travel for recruiting competitions, all that kind of stuff. It was about 90 days a year that I was just flat out not here. Um, in terms of then you start looking at like um, the extra hours, that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, 4 to 6 mornings a week, not being home when the kids wake up, right? Um, on the flip side, I will say that if you get into club coaching, a lot of times club coaching, they might not have morning practices as often, maybe only once or twice a week. Um, and so, but you're having practices after school. So a lot of times when I was at Nitro, I was actually I had a couple morning practices a week, but I was home a lot during the day. Um, and then I would coach from 3:30 to like 8:30 at night, or 3:30 to like 7:30 at night. So I was gone for dinner, but I was home a lot more during the morning and the days. So it is kind of a trade-off with college coaching, right? But yeah, I was on the road at least 90 days a year.
Yeah. Um, as you work as a coach, either club or for the school, what have you found that you like the most or that was the most gratifying to see as a coach?
Yeah. Um, when I was a club coach, um, the to me what was always really cool is when an athlete achieved their goal, and especially when the parents were at the meet, which was a lot of the meets, the parents would be there, and you would watch the athlete look at the scoreboard, shock of, oh my gosh, I just went that fast, and they would immediately look over to their parents and find their parents in the stands. And that was always, a special moment as a coach, because you knew that connection that swimmer had with their mom or dad or both, did that there was a lot of emotion there, and so you understood the connection. At the collegiate level, it's very similar, but it's with the team. So the athlete touches the wall, turns, look at the scoreboard, the team erupts, and immediately their eyes go towards their friends and the team, right? And you see that emotion and that connection. And being able to be at big meets, or even dual meets when it happens, is when you remember that connection that the athletes have with each other or their families, and you get to see that moment, like, it just makes you feel good because you helped out a little bit.
Hmm. All right. And then on the flip side of that, what do you find the most irritating or, you always dread it when you have to go and do it as a coach?
um probably the hardest thing is the being away from home. you know when you leave the house and your 4-year-old is screaming, don't leave, please don't leave, when are you going to be back? um like, that's probably like the hardest thing as a coach. And that others, that the football and basketball coaches work hard, that they put in a lot of hours, but you also, like, you're leaving home and you're thinking, I'm doing this for how much again? Like, I'm not doing this for I don't get to have the other things that other coaches have. So that's definitely probably the hardest part of being a coach at this level, is leaving. And you try to forget about it, and then when you are home, you be present and you make up for it.
Hmm. And so you said when you're at Nitro that you kind of coached professional swimmers, or at least the said it was older than 15, right?
Sure. Hmm.
Um, would you, would you say that like there were actual like real pros, maybe not Olympic bound, or maybe they were? I don't
Yeah.
know what the experience was. Could
Yeah.
you go into that more and how that
Sure.
kind of how it's different than it is coaching at the girls team here?
Sure. So I coached probably 3 actual professional swimmers. They were all foreign athletes. Primarily coached them from 2015 to 2016, leading up to the 2016 Olympics. Um, while I was at Nitro, I coached 2 USA national team members that were both in high school. And they're still on the USA national team to this day through their collegiate careers. And I coached 3 junior national team members. And they, all 3 of them at some point ended up on the USA national team when they got to college. Um, and then there was a couple international junior national members. So like a kid from Peru was on the Peruvian junior national teams. You know, so you know they all went on to swim in college. Um, a couple of them will definitely become professional swimmers. In terms of coaching, I really the only difference is um, at that level we had already established a culture of process. So, what is the process of going from a junior national team member to the national team? What's the process of going from um, an elite USA swimming level swimmer to the junior national team? We had already established a lot of those processes. Here at U of I, we're having to reestablish or establish fully the actual process that you have to go through as an athlete to achieve those goals, and developing that culture to do that. Um, Probably 95% of everything else is the exact same. You know, like looking at technique is looking at technique. The training methods are pretty much the exact same. I think it's more of a mindset. It's more of a process of teaching them the things that they need to do on each and every day to do that. So, for example, when I took over at Nitro, our elite level kids already knew that they needed to work with massage therapists for recovery. Our elite level kids already worked with sports psychologists. Our elite level kids already took advantage of a whole slew of recovery modalities, right? Here at U of I, we're still ingraining a culture of how to utilize those resources that we have here at the U of I. We have those resources. It's a matter of better utilizing them. And then as you get faster athletes, as you recruit better at, you know, swimmers, they come in here and they those things just take care of themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's all the questions that I have for you today. I
Good
actually have a
stuff.
Zoom class here that starts in 7 minutes.
All
So
right. So
I'll send you
yeah,
an email to follow
yeah,
up, and keep my fingers crossed that maybe you can do a tour and meet in person sometime
yeah.
soon.
Yeah,
Uh,
we sent an email. We sent an email yesterday or no, Monday, so 2 days ago. We sent an email asking to see if you could come visit practice and what that process would be like.
all right, that'd be
We will
cool.
see. Right
All
on,
right,
man. Well, good luck.
thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Yep. See ya. Bye.
Bye.